Jamie Foxx never expected this. After reading a deeply emotional letter sent to him by Ibrahim Traoré, the actor broke down in tears live on camera, leaving everyone in the room silent. What was in that letter? Watch this powerful, inspiring moment. That reveals a side of Jamie Foxx and Ibrahim Traoré you've never seen before. It started with an unmarked envelope. Jamie Foxx was on set laughing between takes of an interview when a quiet assistant handed him a sealed letter. "No sender," she said, "but they insisted you open it on camera." He raised an eyebrow, amused. "What is this? A prank?" But something about the weight of the envelope felt serious, heavy. The producer whispered, "Jamie, it's from Burkina Faso, the president himself." That caught his attention. Jamie's smile faltered. "Wait, the Ibrahim Traoré, the young guy everybody's been talking about." The producer nodded. Suddenly, the air felt different. Jamie held the envelope in his hands and stared at it for a long moment before he said, "All right, roll camera. Let's see what this is about." The crew quietly adjusted lights. A hush fell. Over the room, no one yet knew what was inside. But in the pit of Jamie's stomach, a strange feeling was growing. Something told him this wasn't just a letter. It was something much more, something that would change him forever. Jamie carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a single page written in simple, clear handwriting. He began reading aloud, "Dear Mr. Fox, I write you not as a president, not as a politician, but as a man who has watched you, laughed with you through a screen, and cried quietly for a world you cannot see." Jamie's voice cracked slightly as he continued, "I write to you because my people, my children, know your face, but they do not know you, and I believe you should know them." The words hit him in a way he didn't expect. The room stayed dead quiet. The crew members stopped moving. Even the director stopped watching the monitors. Jamie swallowed hard and kept reading. "This is not a request for help, nor a plea for pity. This is simply a story of a boy, a mother, and a village that will die if no one listens. And I believe you, Jamie Foxx, are someone who listens." Jamie lowered the page, his hands trembling slightly. He couldn't bring himself to speak. The silence grew heavy. And then he whispered, "There's more." Jamie looked back down at the letter and continued, "There is a boy named Adama. He is only 9. Every morning he walks 5 miles to fetch water for his mother and baby sister. Sometimes he walks barefoot on glass and stone." Jamie paused, fighting the lump in his throat. "Adama dreams of being a singer someday," he told me. "When I sing, I forget the pain." He couldn't help but imagine the boy, tiny, dusty feet, a cracked smile, walking alone. But now, Adama is sick. The water he carries is poisoned. His mother can't afford the medicine. And yet, every morning, Adama still sings, because he says singing is hope. Jamie wiped at his eyes and gave a small, broken laugh. Man, he couldn't finish. He turned the page over and found one last line. "Jamie, would you sing for him too?" That was it. Jamie folded the letter and sat back, stunned. Everyone in the room watched as tears welled up in his eyes, and for the first time in a long time, Jamie Foxx was speechless. Jamie sat there, gripping the letter. His chest rose and fell with unsteady breaths. The camera was still rolling, but no one dared interrupt. A few crew members exchanged glances, unsure if they should cut, but the director quietly shook his head. "Keep it rolling," he whispered. Jamie's lips trembled as he tried to start speaking. He looked at the teleprompter, but ignored it entirely. Instead, he held the letter up and said softly, "Ibrahim Traoré, you wrote this for me." He read one more line out loud. "We do not have much, but I believe we still have our humanity, and that brother is worth more than gold." The room stayed frozen. Jamie put the letter down for a moment, covering his face with his hands. Everyone could see his shoulders shake. This wasn't acting. Jamie Foxx was crying, and somehow watching one of Hollywood's strongest men break down. Like this made everyone else feel like crying too. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. It was like the whole world was holding its breath. And Jamie whispered, "There's more I need to say." Jamie wiped his face and looked straight into the camera. His voice was hoarse. "You know, in this business, you get a lot of letters," he said. "People wanting autographs, people asking for money, people blaming you for things you didn't even do." He held up Ibrahim's letter again. But this ain't one of those letters. He flipped to the next page and began reading. I grew up with nothing, Jamie. No shoes, no school. But I had a brother. His name was Kareem. He taught me how to laugh. Through hunger, he taught me how to dream even when my stomach ached. He was my hero. Jaime's eyes blurred. His voice broke again. Kareem died at 13. He didn't live long enough to see the man I became. But every day, when I help my people, I hear his voice. He tells me, keep going, make them see us. Jaime pressed the paper to his chest, shaking his head. He lost his brother. And he's still fighting for everyone else, Jaime whispered. A tear rolled down his cheek. And here I am, feeling sorry for myself some days. The room was completely still now. Jaime looked back at the letter, his hands trembling slightly. So, what will you do, Jaime? Will you keep making the world laugh, or will you help someone else find a reason to smile? The question hit like a punch to the chest. Jaime dropped his head, staring at the floor for a moment. Then he looked straight at the camera, his voice quiet but steady. This man, this president of Burkina Faso, he just asked me the hardest question I've ever been asked in my life. He laughed weakly, but tears kept running down his face. I don't even know if I deserve a letter like this, he admitted round him. Some of the crew had started crying too. The director covered his mouth, overcome. And Jaime said almost to himself, but I'm not going to ignore this, not now. He held up the letter again to Ibrahim, to Kareem, and to every little boy still walking barefoot to fetch water. I hear you. A hush settled over everyone. Jaime folded the letter slowly, carefully. Then he looked into the lens and whispered, We all hear you now. Jaime sat in silence, still holding Ibrahim's letter. The cameras stayed on, but the room felt like a church. Quiet, reverent. Finally, Jaime turned the page. His hands trembled. Jamie, you've made the world laugh. You've brought joy where there was pain. But let me tell you, there are places where laughter has been stolen, where even a smile feels like rebellion. My people live there, Jaime swallowed hard, his voice cracking. Burkina Faso, he said aloud, his eyes glistening. I invite you to come. Here, not as an actor, not as a star, but as a brother. Come see why we fight. Come see what hope looks like in a child's eyes, even when their belly is empty. Jaime shook his head slowly, whispering, He's asking me to see for myself. Around him, some of the crew wiped their own tears. Jaime looked into the camera. He's asking me something bigger than me, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready, but deep down he already knew. This wasn't just a letter anymore. It was a call. That night, long after the broadcast ended, Jaime sat alone in his dressing room. The lights were off. The letter lay unfolded on his lap. He read one line over and over again. When the world forgets us, brother, it is up to those who still remember. To keep us alive, Jaime closed his eyes, remembering his own struggles growing up. Poverty, fear, nights he cried himself to sleep. He thought about all the people who helped him, believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. And he realized, this wasn't just about Burkina Faso. This was about humanity. Jaime took out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts and stopped at his manager's name. Book me a flight, he said when the call connected. To where? His manager asked, confused. Jaime stared down at the letter and smiled faintly through his tears. To Ouagadougou, he said, the capital of Burkina Faso. A stunned silence followed, but Jaime's voice was clear now. Tell no one yet. I need to do this for me, for him, for them. That night, Jaime didn't sleep. He packed a small bag and he prayed. 2 days later, Jaime boarded a plane under the radar. No press, no entourage, no designer suit, just a man with a simple bag, a baseball cap pulled low, and a letter folded close to his heart. As the plane ascended, Jaime looked out the window at the clouds below. Somewhere over the Atlantic, he pulled out Ibrahim's letter again. When you arrive, do not look for me in palaces. You will find me in the villages among my people. Jaime closed his eyes and thought of Ibrahim, a young leader with so much weight on his shoulders, still finding time to write to a stranger. He imagined Kareem, the brother Ibrahim wrote about, and his heart ached. When the plane landed, the heat of the African sun hit Jaime like a wave. He stood on the tarmac, breathing deeply, letting it all sink in. Burkina Faso, the land of upright men. He spotted a young boy waiting with a handwritten sign. Welcome. Brother Jaime smiled softly. tears already welling up. This was just the beginning, and somehow he already felt home. Jaime followed the young boy through a dusty village path. Kids played barefoot on the red earth, their laughter piercing the silence of poverty. Women balanced buckets of water on their heads, their faces lined with quiet strength. Jaime tried to smile at everyone he passed, but his chest felt heavy. He had seen poverty before in movies, on charity commercials, but nothing prepared him for the rawness of this. The boy led him to a small one-room schoolhouse. Inside, a dozen children sat on benches, scribbling in torn notebooks. Jaime knelt beside one little girl, her clothes faded but her eyes full of light. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Amra," she whispered shrilly. He smiled, but as she turned back to her work, he noticed the words she was writing. "Hope never dies." Jaime stood in the doorway, watching the children. The sun was setting, painting the sky gold. And for the first time in a long time, Jaime felt small, but also alive. Later that evening, Jaime was brought to a quiet courtyard lit by a single lantern. Sitting there waiting was Ibrahim Traoré. He rose and walked over, extending his hand with a warm smile. "Brother Ibrahim," said simply. Jaime gripped his hand and whispered, "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to," Ibrahim replied. "You already came." They sat under the stars. Ibrahim poured tea and began telling Jaime about Karim, about how his brother's death from a preventable illness pushed him to fight for his people. Jaime listened silently, tears sliding down his face. "You said something in your letter," Jaime finally said, "that we can choose to keep people alive in memory, that we can choose to help someone else smile. You really believe that?" Ibrahim looked at him gently. "It's not a choice anymore," he said. "It's the only way we survive." Jaime sat back, his heart aching and full all at once. He didn't realize yet that this night would change everything for him. Before Jaime left that courtyard, Ibrahim handed him a folded note. "Don't open it until you get back to the States," Ibrahim said. Jaime nodded, slipping it into his jacket pocket. As they said goodbye, Jaime hugged him tightly. "You're a good man," Jaime murmured. "I'm just trying to be my brother's keeper," Ibrahim said softly. The next morning, Jaime boarded the flight home. The sights and sounds of Burkina Faso still swirled in his mind. The dusty streets, the children's laughter, the strength in Ibrahim's eyes. When he landed in Los Angeles, the cameras were waiting. But Jaime just walked through them silently, clutching his jacket. That night, alone in his kitchen, he finally unfolded the note. It was written in Ibrahim's careful script. "Don't just tell the world what you saw. Show them. Be the reason someone else believes. Again, your brother Ibrahim." Jaime held the note to his chest, whispering through tears, "I promise." And he knew he would never be the same again. 3 days later, sat in a quiet studio in Los Angeles, waiting for the cameras to roll. In his hands was Ibrahim's letter, the one he had carried through airports, read under African skies, and cried over more times than he could count. The producers had invited him for a casual interview, expecting his usual charm and humor. But Jaime was quiet, his eyes fixed on the letter. When the host asked, "So Jamie, you've been away. What did you bring back with you?" Jaime unfolded the letter on live television. "This," he said, his voice breaking, and then he began to read. "To my brother Jaime, you don't know me, but I know your story. I know what it means to grow up with nothing and fight to stand tall. My people, they need to know someone still remembers them, that someone with a big voice still believes they matter. Will you help me remind them?" Jaime stopped reading, overcome with tears. The room went silent. Even the cameras didn't move. It was the kind of silence that felt sacred. For a long moment, Jaime couldn't speak. He wiped his face with his sleeve, laughing softly through his tears. "I'm sorry," he said to the stunned audience. I didn't expect it to hit me like this." He looked directly at the camera. "Ibrahim Traoré isn't just a leader," Jaime said. "He's a brother, a son, a man fighting for children who don't even have shoes, but still smile at you like they own the world." Jaime held up the letter for everyone to see. "He reminded me that my story is connected to theirs, and yours is too. We don't get to just look away." The audience began to clap softly at first, then louder. People in the control room wiped tears. From their eyes, on social media, clips of the moment began spreading like wildfire. Jamie Foxx breaks down reading a letter from Africa. One headline read, but Jaime didn't care about the headlines. In his heart, he was already planning his next step. That night, Jaime couldn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, Ibrahim's words echoing in his mind. Will you help me remind him? By morning, he knew what he had to do. Press conference. Cameras flashed as he stood at the podium, holding the letter once again. I'm starting something new, Jaime said firmly. We're going to build schools, clinics. We're going to invest in dreams, not just in Burkina Faso, but in every forgotten corner of this world. He paused, his voice catching, and we're going to call it the Karim Foundation, named after Ibrahim's brother, a boy who should still be here. Reporters sat stunned, scribbling notes, many wiping their own eyes. Jaime ended with a quiet promise. We may come from different places, but we are family, and families don't leave each other behind. As he walked off stage, his phone buzzed. A message from Ibrahim. Brother, thank you. Jaime smiled through tears, whispering to himself, No, Ibrahim, thank you. The world was about to change, and it all started with one letter. 2 days after Jaime's emotional broadcast and press conference, the world was still buzzing. His social media was flooded with messages, some from people who'd been inspired to donate, others sharing their own stories of struggle and hope. But Jaime couldn't stop thinking about the letter. He sat alone in his dressing room before another interview, carefully unfolding the fragile paper again. This time he read it all the way to the end. When I was a boy, my brother Karim always told me, if you're lucky enough to have a voice, use it for someone who doesn't. I'm asking you, Jaime, as one brother to another, please don't forget the children of my country. Don't let the world forget them. If you can carry just one story forward, let it be theirs. Yours truly, Ibrahim Traoré. Jaime closed his eyes, clutching the letter to his chest. Karim's name now felt like a heartbeat in his mind. He wiped his eyes, stood up, and whispered to himself, I won't forget. He was no longer just an actor. He was a brother on a mission. Jaime's next live appearance came at a United Nations charity gala. He stood on a glittering stage, but his voice was quiet, raw with emotion. Ibrahim Traoré wrote me a letter. He began holding it up. It broke me. It woke me up, he told Karim's story. He told about the children, the dusty classrooms, the mothers waiting for water, the smiles that hid hunger. As he spoke, the camera zoomed in on his tear-streaked face. I've been blessed with a voice, Jaime said, and from this moment forward, I will use it for those who don't have one. He announced that the Karim Foundation had already raised millions with more to come. But it wasn't just about money. It's about remembering, Jaime said softly. It's about being your brother's keeper. The audience rose to their feet, applauding through tears. Somewhere in Burkina Faso, Ibrahim watched the live feed on his phone. He sat quietly, a proud smile spreading across his face. The world was listening now. That night, Jaime called Ibrahim. When the line connected, Jaime's voice cracked. You did this, he said. You made me see. Ibrahim laughed gently. No, brother, he replied. You chose to see. They spoke for an hour, planning, dreaming, promising. By the end, Jaime made one last vow. As long as I have breath, he said, Karim's name will never be forgotten, and neither will yours. Ibrahim grew, quiet, his heart full. When they hung up, Jaime looked out at the city lights of Los Angeles and whispered, Thank you, brother. Thank you for giving me something bigger than myself. And somewhere under the African stars, Ibrahim whispered back, Thank you for keeping your promise. The next morning, Jaime's tearful reading of the letter hit 50 million views online, and the world was reminded of one powerful truth. We all have a voice, and we all have a brother to keep. If this story touched your heart, please don't just scroll away. Take a second to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and comment below. What part of this story moved you the most? Let's show the world that kindness, courage, and hope still matter, and that we are all brothers and sisters. Thank you for watching and remembering.